Spinal cord is a cylindrical structure with anterior, posterior, and two lateral surfaces. On the anterior surface, there is anterior median fissure in the midline and anterolateral sulci on each side. And on the posterior surface, there is posterior median sulcus in the midline and posterolateral sulci on each side. And in the upper thoracic segments and all cervical segments between posterolateral and posterior median sulcus, there is posterior intermediate sulcus. If I draw a cross section from the spinal cord, you see this structure. You see this structure, okay? Here is anterior median fissure. These are anterolateral sulci. These are posterolateral sulci, and these are posterior intermediate sulci. Yeah, and here is posterior median sulcus. Gray matter or collection or aggregation of cell body of neurons in the CNS, in the spinal cord, is in the central part. Okay? In the central part. Similar to the X or H. This gray matter has posterior horn or posterior gray column. Posterior gray column or posterior horn. An anterior gray column or anterior horn. Yeah, here is anterior horn, here is posterior horn. Between anterior horn and posterior horn, this area is called intermediate gray column.
Column is inside one or outside?
I told you spinal cord is a cylindrical structure. This gray matter is as a column, not horn. But physiologists tell this horn because they work with the slices of the spinal cord. But as a whole, this gray matter is similar to a column. Okay? This area is called intermediate gray column. Intermediate gray column. And from T1 to L2 segments, T1 to L2 segments of the gray matter of the spinal cord, there is an elevation in the intermediate gray column that is called lateral horn. That is called lateral horn. Okay? Lateral horn is located in the T1 to L2 segments of the spinal cord. Lateral horn. Okay? Gray matter on each side of the spinal cord has 3 gray matter columns, posterior, intermediate, and anterior. Posterior gray column or posterior horn has 4 parts. 4 parts. This part is apex. On the posterior gray column or posterior horn, this posterior part is called apex or supramarginal lamina or posteromarginal lamina, apex. This area is head. This area is neck. And this area is base. It has 4 parts: apex, head, neck, and base. Okay? Anterior gray column has 2 parts: base and head. Base and head. Base and head. Between base of posterior gray column and base of anterior gray column, this is intermediate gray column. And from T1 to L2, it has lateral horn. Is it clear?
Yes.
Yeah? This is lateral horn. There are 10 laminae in the gray matter of the spinal cord. These laminae start from apex of the posterior gray column. Apex is called lamina 1. Lamina 1. Or posteromarginal or posterolateral lamina. Posteromarginal lamina. Lamina 2 is called substantia gelatinosa rolandi. Substantia gelatinosa rolandi, yeah, or substantia gelatinosa of Rolando. Substantia gelatinosa rolandi. Lamina 3 and lamina 4 are located in the head. Lamina 2, 3, lamina 2, 3, and 4 are located in the head. Lamina 5 is in the neck. Lamina 5 is in the neck. And lamina 6 is in the base. Okay? These are laminae of the posterior gray column. In the base of the anterior gray column, there is lamina 8. And the head of the anterior gray column is called lamina 9. Lamina 9 or anterior horn. You see here? Lamina 9 is here. In the intermediate gray column, there is lamina 7. And around the central canal here, there is lamina 10. Lamina 10 or substantia gelatinosa centralis. Lamina 10 or substantia gelatinosa centralis. Here is lamina 7. Intermediate gray column is lamina 7. Okay? If you remember, I I told you, collection or aggregation of cell body of neurons in the CNS for a specific function is called nucleus. Postromarginal nucleus or lamina 1 or apex is one nucleus. Lamina 2, substantia gelatinosa rolandi is another nucleus. In the lamina 3 and 4 here, there is a nucleus that is called nucleus properiosus. Nucleus properiosus is here. Okay? And in the base of the posterior gray column and posterior part of the intermediate gray column here, there is another nucleus that is called Clark's nucleus or nucleus thoracicus or nucleus dorsalis. Here is Clark's nucleus. Clark's nucleus. Or nucleus thoracicus or nucleus dorsalis. Clark's nucleus here is located from C8 to L3. From C8 to L3. Okay? Clark's nucleus is located from C8 to L3. Not whole length of the spinal cord. Here is Clark's nucleus. In the intermediate gray column, there are two nuclei, intermedial medial nucleus and intermedial lateral nucleus. Intermedial medial nucleus is located in the whole length of the spinal cord. But intermedial lateral nucleus is located in the lateral horn. If I ask you, where is location of intermedial lateral nucleus, you answer me,
T1 to L2.
T1 to L2. Okay? T1 to L2. I told you?
Yes.
Lateral horn is located from T1 to L2. And intermedial lateral nucleus is located on the lateral horn from T1 to L2. There are three cell groups in the head of the anterior gray column. Medial group, lateral group, and central group. Medial group, lateral group, and central group. Medial group is for innervation of axial skeletal muscles. For innervation of
axial
skeletal muscles. And lateral group is for innervation of upper and lower limbs. Upper and lower limbs. In these segments of the spinal cord, there are segments for innervation of upper and lower limbs.
Cervical and thoracic.
Cervical segments and cervical enlargement and lumbar enlargement. Cervical enlargement is from C4 to T1 and lumbar enlargement is from L1 to S3. Okay? If I ask you, where is the location of lateral group neurons In the anterior gray column of the spinal cord, you answer me cervical enlargement and lumbar enlargement. C4 to T1 and L1 to S4, S3.
Just I have a quick question. The first one, you said the spinal cord is in level of between L1 and L2. So how is the Clarix nucleus is to L3? There is two segments.
I told you, spinal cord has 31 segments. 31 segments. There are 8 cervical segments, yeah,
Exactly.
12 thoracic, 5
Five
lumbar, 5
lumbar,
sacral,
five
1 coccygeal. I told you there is not at the level of same vertebra.
It's the under.
The spinal cord segments are upper than vertebrae. I told you,
Yes.
plus 10, plus 2, plus 3. I told.
No, my question is not about segments. It's about like it's end in the spinal cord. It's end between L1 and L2, right?
Okay.
So this is L3. Is just the nerves, not the spine.
These are not nerves, these are segments, these are not vertebrae, these are segments of the spinal cord. These are segments of the spinal cord.
No.
L3 is at the level of T2, T11.
Yes.
L3 is at the level of T11 vertebra.
Okay. I get it.
It's not related to the vertebral column or spinal nerves. It's related to the spinal segments. Is it clear?
Yes.
Can you repeat the lateral, this one, last one?
Lateral cord?
Yes.
Lateral
No,
cord.
no, no. Yes, yes.
I told you in the head of the anterior gray column, there are 3 nerve cell groups. Medial group is located in the whole length of the spinal cord for innervation of axial skeletal muscles. Okay?
Okay.
Lateral group is for innervation of upper limb and lower limb. Innervation of upper limb is from cervical enlargement. And cervical enlargement is from T1 to C4 to T1 segments. And lower limb,
L1 to
lumbar
S3.
enlargement is from L1 to S3 segments of the spinal cord. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay?
Bad.
And central group is located in some segments of the spinal cord. For example, C3, C4, and C5 segments make phrenic nucleus. Phrenic nucleus. You know that phrenic nerve is a motor nerve of the diaphragm. You know? Yeah? Phrenic nerve is from C3 to C5. And in the C3 to C5 segments, central group makes phrenic nucleus. From C1 to C5, there is another central group, central nucleus, that makes spinal nucleus of the accessory nerve. Cranial nerve number 11. Cranial nerve number 11 has 2 parts, cranial part and spinal part. And spinal part emerges from spinal nucleus that is located from C1 to C5 segments of the spinal cord. At the S2 segment, there is another central group nucleus that is called Onuf nucleus. Onuf nucleus. Okay?
Okay.
This is arrangement of the nuclei in the spinal cord gray matter. Okay? Motor neurons from anterior gray column emerge from anterolateral sulcus and go to the intervertebral foramen. This is anterior root or motor root. Yeah? This is anterior root or
Motor.
motor
Root.
root. Anterior root or motor root or ventral. If you remember, I told you there is a sensory root here, and in the sensory root, there is a ganglion that is called DRG, dorsal root ganglion. Which type of neurons are there in the DRG? Pseudo-unipolar neurons. Cell-bodial neurons are located on the peripheral part of the DRG, near to the capsule of the ganglion. This is location of cell-bodial neurons. And nerves from these neurons make two divisions. Yeah?
Yes.
Peripheral part and central part. These peripheral parts attach to the motor root in the intervertebral foramen and make spinal nerve. Okay? This is sensory root and this is motor root. But this is a spinal nerve. If I ask you, spinal nerve is motor or sensory? You answer me, mix. Okay? After emerging from intervertebral foramen, spinal nerve divides into two branches. Anterior large branch, and posterior small branch. Yeah? If I ask you, anterior branch of the spinal nerve is motor or sensory?
Mixed.
Posterior branch?
Mixed.
Mixed. But anterior root is motor. Posterior root is sensory. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay? This anterior branch is larger. For example, if you tell me in the intercostal spaces there are 11 pairs of intercostal nerves, these intercostal nerves are anterior branches of the T1 to T11. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay? Posterior branches go to the back.
Okay, just a minute.
Go to the back.
That means we'll come back to the spinal cord.
Back. Posterior part of the body. Here is back. Here is back. Anterior branches go to the Anterior part of the body. If I ask you, which branches of this nerve, spinal nerve, make brachial plexus, lumbar plexus, sacral plexus?
The
The
anterior.
anterior branches. Yeah?
Yes.
Anterior branch. I told you in the lateral horn from T1 to L2, there is a nucleus that is called
Medium lateral. Medium lateral.
lateral, intermediolateral nucleus. Intermediolateral nucleus. In the intermediolateral nucleus, there are sympathetic neurons. Sympathetic neurons. These sympathetic multipolar neurons, have myelinated, small myelinated nerve fibers. These myelinated nerve fibers go to the anterior root, and then to the anterior branch. Go to the anterior root and anterior branch. Okay?
Okay.
These myelinated fibers are called sympathetic, periganglionic, periganglionic sympathetic fibers. Preganglionic
Sympathetic
sympathetic fibers.
What's the root of them? The middle?
Intermediolateral nucleus makes preganglionic sympathetic fibers. Okay? These preganglionic sympathetic fibers goes out from anterior branch and enter into the sympathetic ganglion. Sympathetic ganglion. You know that on each side of the vertebral column there is sympathetic chain or sympathetic trunk. Do you know?
Yes.
Sympathetic chain or sympathetic trunk is formed by three pairs of cervical ganglia, 11 or 12 pairs of thoracic ganglia, 5 pairs of lumbar, 5 pairs of sacral, and one single coccygeal ganglion impar. Okay? Each sympathetic ganglion has many multipolar neurons. You see here, these are multipolar neurons. In the DRG, there are pseudo-unipolar neurons. Arrangement of neurons in the DRG is regular, near to the peripheral part of the ganglion, near to the capsule. But arrangement of the multipolar neurons in the sympathetic ganglion is irregular. Yeah? These fibers, preganglionic fibers, enter into the ganglion. Some fibers, preganglionic fibers, make synapses with neurons of this ganglion. And some fibers descend to the inferior ganglion and make synapses with this ganglion. One or two ganglia inferior to this segment, or ascend to the superior ganglion. And these fibers between ganglia makes chain. Makes chain. Okay?
Yes.
Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay. These are preganglionic sympathetic fibers. From these neurons, axons of these neurons go to the anterior rhombus and make post-ganglionic sympathetic fibers. Post-ganglionic sympathetic fibers are unmyelinated, non-myelinated, bare. Okay? Non-myelinated. You see white communicating branch and gray communicating branch. Okay?
Yes.
Preganglionic fibers are myelinated, but small myelinated fibers. And postganglionic fibers are non-myelinated. There. In the sympathetic and parasympathetic systems, both of them, preganglionic fibers have acetylcholine neurotransmitter. They are cholinergic fibers. In both of them, sympathetic and parasympathetic systems. Postganglionic fibers in the parasympathetic system has acetylcholine, but in the sympathetic system has noradrenaline or norepinephrine. Noradrenergic. Okay? The difference between sympathetic and parasympathetic systems is in the postganglionic fibers. Preganglionic fibers, in both of them, have acetylcholine. Yeah?
Yes.
Both of them have acetylcholine. But postganglionic fibers in the parasympathetic system have acetylcholine. In the sympathetic system is noradrenaline or norepinephrine. Differences in the postganglionic fibers.
So in the preganglionic fibers, both of them have
Acetylcholine.
After that, it will change.
On the postganglionic fibers, there is difference. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay? These fibers are peripheral part of the DRG. Yeah? But DRG has central part. Central fibers enter into the posterolateral sulcus. These fibers, after entering to the posterolateral sulcus, go to the posterior gray column. To the posterior gray column. At the same level. For example, you imagine This is L2, T2. This is, for example, T2. Okay? This is T2 segment. This nerve is T2. Okay? From this area, T2 receives sensory impulses and go to the T2 segment. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay. Some fibers, after entering into the spinal cord, one or two segments descend or ascend, and then enters into the gray matter. Okay? You imagine there is discriminative touch for knowing what's the texture of this matter. Yeah? When in the texture there is a needle. Okay, you palpate this. What's the texture of this?
Fiber.
You don't know. In this bag, there is a needle inside of this. When you are touching here, this,
Don't know.
okay, you are needling. Okay, you have pain. This touch goes to the same level, but this pain goes to the same level and upper segment and lower segments, because this is very important. Okay? From T2 goes to the T1 or T3. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay.
So doctor, the sensation is on T2, but the pain T1 and T2 and T3.
What?
Is this what you mean?
What? What's your question?
My question is that when you meant on the same level, the sensation stays on T2. The pain goes T1, T2, and T3 as well.
Yeah. Because very important. You see here transverse section of the vertebral spinal cord. Between the apex of the posterior gray column and posterolateral sulcus, this yellow area is called posterolateral tract or Lisayer's tract. Lisayer's tract is located between apex of the posterior gray column and posterolateral sulcus here. Lisayer tract. In the Lisayer tract, spinal nerves ascend or descend, okay, and enter to the upper or lower segments. Is it clear?
Yes.
Another way, after entering into the posterolateral sulcus, is ascending of these fibers without entering to the gray matter of the spinal cord. These fibers, after entering to the spinal cord, ascend in the posterior funiculus. Okay? On each side of the spinal cord, white matter of the spinal cord has 3 funiculi. Anterior funiculus is here. This is anterior funiculus. This is lateral funiculus. And this is posterior funiculus. Okay? Anterior funiculus, lateral funiculus, and posterior funiculus. In the posterior funiculus, there is 2 fasciculi. Fasciculus gracilis is here, and fasciculus conatus is here. This is fasciculus conatus. Okay? These are ascending fibers. And these fibers, without entering to the gray matter, ascend into the posterior funiculus and go to the brain stem, to the medulla oblongata, to the gracilis nucleus and conatus nucleus. Is it clear? Okay. Posterior funiculus has 2 fasciculi, fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus conatus. Fasciculus gracilis conveys discriminative touch and vibration of the lower limb and inferior part of the body. And fasciculus conatus conveys discriminative touch and vibration of upper limb and upper part of the trunk. Is it clear?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Fasciculus conatus, in addition to conveying discriminative touch and vibration of the upper limb, conveys proprioceptive impulses of the upper limb and upper part of the trunk. What's the meaning of proprioceptive impulses?
3-dimensional.
Yeah. We have 3. We have 3 sensations. 3 types of sense. What's this? This is exteroceptive. You are hearing me. You are watching, for example, this picture. Yeah?
Yes.
This is touch, touching. Yeah? Palpation. This is exteroceptive. These are exteroceptive. Tasting, hearing, vision, palpation, touching, yeah? Smelling. These are exteroceptive. What's the time?
11:40. 11:40.
11:40. If you don't eat breakfast, you have sensation for
Hunger.
hunger. You tell to your classmate, your friend, I'm very hungry. Yeah?
Yes.
This is introceptive. If you drink many water, you have sensation for urination. This is introceptive. Yeah? This is introceptive. If I ask you what is the position of your left elbow, your right knee? Can you tell me without watching to the elbow or
you can,
knee?
you can.
Yes. Because in all muscles and joints, impulses go to the nervous system.
Proprioception.
And you know what is the position of your arm, your foot, your hand, your knee, your elbow. Okay? This is proprioception. Proprioception. Proprioceptive impulses of upper limb and upper part of the trunk go to the conatus, fasciculus conatus. Okay? But proprioceptive impulses of the lower limb ascend in the gracilis fasciculus and then turn to the Clark's nucleus. Clark's nucleus. From Clark's nucleus, this neurons, without crossing, this nerve fibers go to outside to the lateral funiculus and ascend on the lateral part of the lateral funiculus. Here is ascending tract, that these fibers from Clark's nucleus ascend to the posterior spinal cerebellar tract. This is posterior spinal cerebellar tract. When I tell you spinal cerebellar tract, you know that origin of these fibers is from spinal cord and ending part is cerebellum. Okay? These fibers enter into the cerebellum via inferior cerebellar peduncle without any crossing. Is it clear?
Yes.
Without any crossing.
The tract is gray matter.
No,
Why?
this is white matter.
For the tract.
Tract is white matter.
Oh.
Fibers. Tract means fibers. I told you Clark's nucleus is located from C8 to L3. Inferior to the L3 segment, proprioceptive fibers ascend from gracilis fasciculus and then enter into the Clark's nucleus. Okay? And from Clark's nucleus, without crossing, ascend on the lateral part of the lateral funiculus. Referral part of the lateral funiculus. Anterior to the posterior spinal cerebellar tract, there is another tract that is called anterior spinal cerebellar tract. Anterior spinal cerebellar tract. Anterior spinal cerebellar tract fibers begin from opposite side. After crossing, these fibers ascend in this area. Okay? These fibers, after crossing in the spinal cord, ascend on the peripheral part of the lateral funiculus and then ascend in the brain stem, and then from superior cerebellar peduncle, these fibers in turn into the cerebellum. Into the cerebellum. And in the cerebellum, these fibers make another crossing. Cross again. Okay? If I ask you, which tract has two crossing, you answer me, anterior spinal cerebellar tract. Which tract on the lateral funiculus doesn't have any crossing? Posterior spinal cerebellar tract. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay? Anterior spinal cerebellar tract has two crossing. One in the spinal cord, one into the cerebellum. There is another more important tract in the lateral funiculus and anterior funiculus of the spinal cord. This tract is located near to the head of the anterior gray column. This is a spinal thalamic tract. This part that is located in the lateral funiculus is called lateral spinothalamic, and this part in the anterior funiculus is called anterior spinothalamic tract. Anterior spinothalamic tract. Okay? The fibers of this tract, after crossing in the spinal cord, ascends near to the head of the anterior gray column. Lateral spinothalamic tract is for pain and temperature. Is for pain and temperature. And anterior spinothalamic tract is for light touch. For light touch. Okay? Do you know I touch you?
Yes.
Yes. With
What?
with
Pen or not?
with pen?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe not.
You don't know.
Yes.
You cannot determine this touching is my finger or magic. Marker. Okay? This is light touch. But if I tell him, touch his shirt and tell what's the texture, he can tell me. This is discriminative touch. Okay? Anterior spinothalamic tract is for light touch. And fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus conatus are for discriminative touch, fine touch. Is it clear?
Yes.
Yeah? Lateral spinothalamic tract is for pain and temperature. And anterior spinothalamic tract is for light touch.
The lateral one for pain.
What? Lateral spinothalamic tract is for pain and temperature. Anterior spinothalamic tract is for
Light touch.
light touch. And in the lateral funiculus, in addition to posterior spinocerebellar, anterior spinocerebellar, okay, posterior spinocerebellar and anterior spinocerebellar tract and lateral spinothalamic tract. They're all two descending tracts. Two descending tracts. Lateral corticospinal and rubrospinal. Lateral corticospinal and rubrospinal. Lateral corticospinal and rubrospinal. When I tell you rubrospinal, you know that original. This tract is from red knuckles of the midbrain, and final part or terminal part is spinal cord. When I tell you corticospinal tract, origin of this tract is from cortex, and ending part is spinal cord. Is it clear?
Yes.
These two tracts, lateral corticospinal tract and rubrospinal tracts, are descending tracts. Both of them make contraction of flexor muscles and inhibition of extensor muscles. Both of them. Okay? Function of corticospinal and rubrospinal tracts are same. Flexor muscles contraction and extensor muscle inhibition. Okay? These tracts are on the lateral funiculus. Lateral funiculus. In the anterior funiculus, there is anterior corticospinal tract, and tectospinal tract. Tectospinal tract. Anterior corticospinal tract and tectospinal tract. In addition to this tract, and the anterior part on the anterior part of the anterior funiculus here, there is a tract that is called vestibulospinal tract. Vestibulospinal tract. Vestibulospinal tract originates from lateral vestibular nucleus in the floor of the fourth ventricle, and without crossing, descend into the anterior funiculus, and function of vestibulospinal tract is opposite to the rubrospinal and corticospinal tracts. The function of vestibulospinal tract is contraction of extensor muscles and inhibition of flexor muscles. Vestibular nuclei are related to the equilibrium, balance. Okay? When you are falling, you extend your arms, your legs. Extensor muscles make contraction, and flexor muscles should be inhibit. Can you tell me this section is from which part of the spinal cord?
This is from
From T1 to L3
C1 to T6.
Why?
because it has lateral horns.
One person. Please.
T1 to L2
Why?
because we have a lateral horn.
T1 to L2.
Yes.
Because we have lateral horn.
Mhm.
Is it correct?
I think it's from C1 to T6 because it has intermediate speech.
From C1 to T6 because it has posterior intermediate sulcus. Is it correct? It has lateral horn and it has posterior intermediate sulcus.
So it's not from the C, it's maybe between yes.
Between
That's why
between T1 to T6.
Yeah.
T1 to T6.
This is between T1 to T6 because it has lateral horn and it has posterior intermediate sulcus. Yeah?
Exactly.
Is it clear?
Yes.
This is between T1 to T6. And gray matter is very small in this picture, yeah? In thoracic area, gray matter is very small. You see here, cross-section of the spinal cord in the cervical enlargement, thoracic area, lumbar enlargement, and spinal cord in the sacral part. Yeah? You see in the thoracic area, spinal cord has very small gray matter. But in the cervical enlargement and lumbar enlargement, it's already huge, massive, because innervation of the upper limb and lower limb is massive. You see here ascending and descending fibers, ascending and descending tracts in the lateral funiculus, anterior funiculus, and posterior funiculus. Yeah? You see ascending and descending fibers. In this cross section, this is fasciculus gracilis. This is posterior funiculus. This is fasciculus gracilis. Here is fasciculus conatus. This is posterior spinal cerebellar tract. And this one is anterior spinal cerebellar tract. And this one is spinal thalamic tract. Yeah? Lateral spinal thalamic and anterior spinal thalamic. Here is lateral corticospinal, rubrospinal, anterior corticospinal. And this is vestibulospinal. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, you see fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus conatus, posterior root or dorsal root or sensory root, without entering to the gray matter of the spinal cord, ascend on the posterior funiculus and go to the medulla oblongata. Medulla oblongata, I will tell you. Next session. This is the spinal thalamic tract. Lateral spinal thalamic is for pain and temperature, and anterior spinal thalamic is for light touch. You see here, there is crossing in the spinal cord, and after crossing in the spinal cord, these fibers ascend, and after ascending from brainstem, enter into the thalamus. VPL, nucleus of the thalamus, ventral posterolateral nucleus of the thalamus. This is for light touch, and lateral spinal thalamic is for pain and temperature. These are the spinocerebellar tracts. Spinocerebellar tract. This here is posterior spinocerebellar tract that you see here, without any crossing, ascend and go to the inferior cerebellar peduncle. There isn't any crossing, and anterior spinocerebellar tract has two crossing. One crossing in the spinal cord and one crossing in the cerebellum. You see here, this is Clark's nucleus. Here is posterior spinocerebellar tract, and here is anterior spinocerebellar tract. Anterior spinocerebellar tract has two crossing. Yeah?
Yes.
Is it clear?
Yes.
If I ask you which tract doesn't have any crossing in the anterior funiculus, any crossing in the anterior funiculus, vestibular spine.
Posterior lateral.
No, vestibular spine. On the anterior funiculus is vestibular spine. Which tract on the lateral funiculus doesn't have any crossing? Posterior spinocerebellar. Okay? Which tract has crossing in the medulla oblongata? Corticospinal tract. Which tract has crossing in the midbrain? Rubrospinal tract and tectospinal tract. Okay? If I ask you which tract has crossing in the midbrain and is located in the anterior funiculus of the spinal cord, you answer me tectospinal. Which tract has crossing in the midbrain and is located on the lateral funiculus of the spinal cord? You answer me rubrospinal. Which tract is located on the lateral funiculus of the spinal cord and has crossing in the medulla oblongata? Lateral corticospinal tract. Okay? These are descending fibers from cortex to the spinal cord, corticospinal tract, and from red nucleus to the spinal cord, rubrospinal, vestibular spinal, tectospinal, and reticular spinal. This is corticospinal tract. You see here, this is cortex. From motor cortex and a part of the sensory cortex, these fibers descend and make corona radiata. And from posterior limb of the internal capsule, these fibers descend into the cerebral peduncle and basilar part of the pons, and then enters into the anterior part of the medulla oblongata. In the inferior part of the medulla oblongata, 75 to 80% of corticospinal tract fibers make crossing and make lateral corticospinal tract, and 20 to 25% of these fibers without crossing enter into the anterior funiculus and make anterior corticospinal tract. But anterior corticospinal tract, before entering to the gray matter of the spinal cord, make crossing. Okay? In the corticospinal tract, only 3% of fibers don't have any crossing. 75 to 80% of these fibers make crossing in the medulla oblongata. And 20 to 22% of these fibers make crossing in the spinal cord. Just 3% of fibers don't have any crossing. Do you have any question? Okay. I ask you, a patient, 27 years old man, after car accident, has loss of sensation of pain and temperature on the left side and sensory loss of discriminative touch and vibration on the right inferior limb, inferior extremity, lower extremity, and paralysis of motor paralysis of the right lower limb. Which segment of the spinal cord is damaged and which vertebra has damage?
Lateral spinal filament. Right arm.
At first, tell me, which vertebra? T10. Because from L1, lumbar enlargement begins. Yeah? This damage is from T10 to inferior part. T10, T11, maybe T12. Okay? Is this unilateral or bilateral? This is unilateral. Because there are many complications on the left side and many complications on the right side. Yeah? When I tell you right lower limb or lower extremity on the right side, right lower limb has paralysis, okay? And there isn't discriminative touch and vibration on the right lower limb, okay? You know that this damage is on the right side. On the right side. Because crossing of the corticospinal tract is on the medulla oblongata, not in the spinal cord. Okay? And in the gracilis and conatus fasciculi, there isn't any crossing. Yeah? But the spinothalamic tract has crossing. Damage is on the right side. Then right side of the spinal cord at the level of L1 has damage. Spinothalamic tract on the right side has that damage. And pain and temperature of the left side cannot convey to the thalamus. Is it clear? Yeah? This syndrome is called Brown-Sequard syndrome. Ipsilateral upper motor neuron syndrome below the level of the lesion. Okay? Below the level of the lesion, there is ipsilateral. Ipsilateral. But on the pain and temperature, loss of pain and temperature is on the contralateral, opposite side. You see here. ipsilateral loss of discriminative touch sensation, and ipsilateral lower motor neuron syndrome at the level of lesion. You see here damage on the right side made, syndrome on the right lower limb, and pain and temperature on the left. Okay. You have any question?